I have been looking forward to this week for a long time, and it's really nice to be back in Venice. I was sure I was here 5 years ago, but didn't get to spend much time. I'm really excited about being in all the cell groups this week. Had a great time last night in the ladies' night out, and last night was great because I saw a lot of familiar faces, and they all had name tags. Because I don't remember a lot of people's names, but I really enjoyed that. I was home, I was here 5 years ago, but I was home about in 2012. A niece got married, and I came home for that wedding. And by that point, I had realized that my term was not going as I had anticipated, and as I had told all of you, that I was going to be involved in a church plant, and it simply did not happen. And so I spent the 7 weeks that I was home, I was in 13 different churches. Didn't make it to Florida, but I was up in a lot of churches and just trying to explain to them what happened. I'm not going to take the time to do that this morning. I will be talking about this whole last term during the cell group time this week. But I do want to tell you just where I am and what's going on. And after I got home in 2012, in October, I began really seriously praying, what is the future? What does God want for me now? And to my utter amazement, God did not tell me. In fact, He still has not. And I know the sound of God's voice. He has spoken to me through prayer. He has spoken to me through the Word. He has spoken to me once through a dream, through circumstances. But in this situation, He was not saying anything. And I like to journal in my devotion time, my personal time with Him. And it was beginning to get more and more serious, because I'm, after all, getting ready to come home on deputation, and you're supposed to take home pictures, and you're supposed to take home, and I had nothing. I knew I was leaving the ministry that I was in, but I did not know where I was going. I had nothing to come home and tell you and talk to you about. So I started writing more and more, almost daily in my journal. Lord, I know you love me. I know you have a plan. I do not know what in the world is going on. I thought about Job, who went through a horrendous experience, and yet he never, to my knowledge, on this earth, never knew the truth behind what all that testing was. And so I began to think, is there no future for me? Am I going to die in a plane crash on the way home? So why bother thinking of another ministry? Is there no more future for me with World Venture? What in the world is going on? And I prayed and prayed that God would reveal something to me. And in His grace, He did that a week before I came home from the field. And another thing that I had been started writing in my journal was, there must be something out there that is more important than my little plans at this point in God's agenda. And when He takes care of all of that, my part will fall into place, and He will reveal that to me. And that's exactly what is happening. And so a week before I came home, I found out that in our churches, our mission in 2012 celebrated its 50th anniversary in Senegal. We have a church association that has some 30 churches. Most of them are rural. I call them mud hut churches. But rural churches, the pastors are mostly farmers, and there's one urban church, maybe two, not urban as we would think of it, but urban nonetheless for Senegal. And the one man was disgruntled with our mission because of something that to us was totally non-consequential. But to him, he blew it so much out of proportion, talked to all of his friends, there was so much negative feelings going around, that finally the church association, the whole church association got into the situation, and they called a meeting with our church, with our mission leaders. I think we had 5 men go to the meeting. That was September 21st, a week after I came home, and I asked generally on my email update list for people to pray specifically for that particular meeting, because it was serious. We have just celebrated our 50th anniversary, and a lot of times what happens, things kind of fall apart afterwards, because Satan really is wanting to cause trouble, and he indeed was doing a great job through this one man. But the result of that meeting was, because many, many, many people were praying, all the thoughts and fears, and you could say the cards were laid open on the table. I mean, everybody felt free to say what they wanted to say, and according to my field director, he said they took care of, in the first third of the meeting, anything they wanted to accomplish, and their second third was that they wanted to say, okay, what can we do different now? How can we, you as a mission, and we as a church association, which are all nationals, it's not led by the mission in any way, they have their own president, vice president, and so forth. How can we work more harmoniously together? In other words, how can we make a good thing better? And I thought of the story of Joseph, because remember after Jacob died, the brothers came to Joseph and said, oh, remember, Dad wouldn't want you to be upset with us. And he said, no, you maybe meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, and for the purpose of saving many lives. And I thought, in this situation, I do not know why that one individual got so disgruntled, but what it did, maybe he meant it for evil, maybe Satan thought he's going to win a great victory here, but he didn't, because it united the mission and the church association in a way that is going to be really much better in the future. And God is going to go for it. But that is where I come in. Because one of the things that they want is more, they want to know the missionaries more. They work out we mostly work in the rural, the urban areas, but they live out in the really rural mud huts and that sort of, we don't live out there. And so they would like to know us better. They would like to have more say in where missionaries are placed. So I already knew that I was leaving the area that I was in because the church plant did not take place, and it wasn't going to take place either. It's not like it would have happened next year. It was not in any time soon going to happen. And because I'm supposed to be in evangelism, you can stay in a place just to keep busy, or you can move on to where you can be more effective, and that's what I believe I'm doing. But they want to say where people are placed, so we're saying, okay, here's Jane, what do you want to do with her? And they haven't said yet. But what happened is we're going through this, it's a growing process. There's a document that was to be written up by December 1st, and that happened. And both parties now have been able to read over and tweak what they like and don't like, but they have not yet had a meeting to be able to say, to sit down together and fine-tune what that document's going to look like. How is it that we are going to work together? And my field chairman thinks that has to take place before they will actually come along and find a place for me. But they were supposed to have an election and a yearly annual meeting in January. They did not have a quorum at that meeting. So they had it last Saturday, February 15th. Now they have a new board, and thankfully the president is the same, as well as two others that were, I think there are 5 total, 3 are the same. And so now with this document that's being written up, it can keep moving forward. It's not like we have to start at 0 because we've got a new group in there. And so we're really pleased with the leadership. They're sharp men, and we just really have a lot of respect for them, so we're excited. But God has put me in a position this year of waiting. And I'm a person, a visionary. I can think of all sorts of things to do, and God has just said, stop and wait for me. I don't know what the end result's going to be. Some of the possibilities that I have, all of us on the field, we have like 30-some missionaries. We all wrote what our educational background is, what our experiences have been, what our loves are, what we enjoy doing, and things that we're qualified to do. And so I did that, and one of the things that you well remember is I had a store for 12 years for evangelism purposes in the market area. I love doing that. I also now, for 8 of those years, in the past 4 years, have a public library and a reading room ministry. That's another possibility of something I could do. Another thing that I was introduced to the last 2 years is I worked with some children that had never, well, the one had been in village school for 3 years. The other one had never been in school. He was 12 years old. He was too old now to be put in private school, in public school. Very poor neighborhood. When he was born, his parents didn't want him, so they gave him to this person to raise, and they gave him to that person to raise, and he ended up in the same area where I was. I worked with Paul for 2 years. Eventually, he became a Christian. He was being raised in a Catholic home, and a very, very poor situation. And my heart went out. I am an elementary teacher by my training, and it was just such a, out of all the years I taught, I think these were my favorite, because I took kids that had no other possibility of ever learning math or learning to read, and being able to work with them. Paul had a reading disability that I can't identify, that I don't know how to help him. And that was disappointing to me, because I love to teach kids to read. I love to see them enjoy books, but that's never going to be possible for him. But that's another possibility, because I'm sure these kids are all over Sanibel. Another opportunity that might come up is literacy. Out in the village area where we have the churches, or the Church Association works, they have the Serere Bible. Now, French is the national language. Most people don't speak it. Wolof is the next language that a lot of people speak it, along with the other 35 languages that they speak. But where our churches are mostly in Serere, where they speak Serere. The Serere Bible is totally done, translated. Many of them do not know how, especially the women, do not know how to read. And so that's right up my alley also, although I don't speak Serere. There is a method of teaching people to read even though you don't know the language. Or I could work through a translator. So that's another possibility. But all of these are my things that I enjoy, things that I've been qualified to do, but the Church Association has to pinpoint something and say, this is where we want Jane to be and what we want her to do. So that is where I stand at this point. And so this being asked to wait has been an interesting experience. And because I want to get out there, I want to say something and tell people what I'm doing. But before I came home, I was given an article, 4-page article of people in the Bible that did not wait for God's best. And I had written also in my journal, Lord, help me not to miss it. Help me not to make a mistake. Help me not, because of the pressure of other people, possibly, well, you could do this and you could do that. Help me not to fall for that. I want God's best, and that's a huge prayer request for right now. But I just really am enjoying my time in the States. I came home in mid-September. I hope to go back in October. Hope I have a job to go back to. So that's my plan for right now. I want to thank you so much for your financial and prayer support. I want to thank Ellen for her great job she's done in getting me here this week, and then all the correspondence that went into that. She's done a great job. And she just told me, and I think it's great, that you have a system in your church that if people want prayer letters, that this church secretary will literally send out the letters that come in. I think that's great. That if you would like to sign up to get it in your email box at home, fine, but it sounds like that's already being done. So that's wonderful. But just the encouragement. This is a body of believers that I've spent some time with in the past. I love it here. And so I just really covet your prayers for the future as I wait and as we work together.